So this session, we're going to dive in deep with all about VC between now and 12:30. And then at 12:30 to 1 o'clock, we will have Nori Benebi from RBC come on the call, and he's going to speak all about financing through a bank via loans, et cetera, and everything you need to prepare for that. So without further ado, I'll introduce myself, but this time I'll introduce myself um, from the perspective of a pure venture capital investor. And then what I'll do is I'll get into what venture capital is exactly, what kind of businesses can use and leverage venture capital, and what I am looking for in an investable company. Okay, so again, thank you everybody for joining the session. And I think I saw Rochelle joined. I'll be taking over for Gazelle today. She took a last minute investor call because she's still fundraising. And Capital M, we finished fundraising and now we're actually investing and deploying the capital. So again, my name is Melissa Allen, founding partner at Capital M Ventures. And I could get into the story of Capital M Ventures. It's long and many winding roads, but I'll just start by saying that I worked in the corporate world for about 8 or 9 years. I worked in sales and marketing for different technology and big tech companies. So I did a stint at Google, at Torstar Digital, etc. And then after that, I did a complete 180 pivot. I might have talked about this before, and I went into wealth management at Desjardins, where I managed a book worth tens of millions of dollars. And then I decided to combine the two and get into money management, but for startups like angel investing in VC. And I did that for three reasons. Reason number one was in when I was working as a financial advisor, I saw that the clients who were millennial and younger who were making the big money and able to really build their portfolios outside of being STEM, like like engineer, science, like in the science, technology, engineering, math field, or outside of law, the folks who were coming into the office and who were accumulating wealth at a quicker rate as millennials were folks that own their own business, whether it was a business they started themselves or um sorry about that. There's construction going on in the house. It was either, so apologies in advance, but it was either first generation business owners, so entrepreneurs who started their own business, or sometimes it was business owners that inherited or were working on or in or running the family business. And that's when the light bulb went off, is that, oh, there's a way, like creating wealth, it doesn't necessarily have to come from the corporate world, especially if you're not in one of these like super high lucrative in-demand jobs. And then the second reason was that I decided to get into first angel investing and then venture capital was that I saw where technology was going. And I think that we've reached that point now. We see how powerful technology is. We see how much influence technology has, not just technology, but the creators of technology. Like, just look what's happening in the States, right? It's turning into like a technocracy, as they say. Right. And so like as early as 2018, to me, the alarms were sounding that more Black folks, more Black women need to get into technology, need to get to entrepreneurship, like scalable entrepreneurship, as a matter of thriving. And then the third reason was because I have a high tolerance for risk. And I figure that, while we're all young, now's a great time to take on more risk, to assume more risk, because once we start getting into, say, our later, say, like, middle age, it becomes harder and harder. It's still completely possible. And it's even sometimes you're even more prepared um, for being an entrepreneur when you get to middle age because of all the experience you have. But for investing, just because of time horizons, the younger you start, the better. So, and plus, again, I'm interested also in that asymmetrical upside. So, high risk, high reward. That's what angel investing and venture capital is. And so, how I got my start then, in case some of you haven't heard the story, is I did an accelerator, or I love my programs and accelerators. That's why I'm always working in programming. So I did one called Angel Academy, which eventually evolved into Future Capital, which was like an education platform that focused on underrepresented investors. And that eventually got acquired by Spring Activator, which still runs and still does angel education programming to this day. So I did that in 2018, 2019. Then as a financial advisor off the side of my desk, I started to make like small, angel investments here and there. Equivesto and Front Funder are two great platforms for putting in small amounts of money as a retail investor, because the laws changed. For example, in Ontario, you can be a retail investor and invest up to $30,000 a year, right? And so I started to make small investments here and there. And I always thought I would do venture capital and angel investing just off the side of my desk as a passion project, as a small part of my overall wealth portfolio. But in 2020, late 2020, I got introduced to some folks who were starting up a fund. And so I started to help them out because they come from a completely different world than I did, right? They came from the entertainment industry and they wanted to start a fund. And I had all this background investing. I knew the legalities of it. I understood the paperwork, etc. And so I consulted with them for a couple months, and then I came on board full time in 2021. I sold my book of business at Desjardins, joined them full time, and that's how Capital M Ventures actually spun out of that. Because the original plan was always to have this much bigger fund and then do a smaller angel fund. We're writing smaller checks to very early stage companies. And so the initial big fund, it did not continue. However, I was able to launch Capital M Ventures from there, where I was able to raise almost $2 million to invest in underrepresented founders across Canada at the very early stages. So that angel pre-seed stage of funding. And when it comes to question time, if you have questions about any of the terms or jargon I'm using, feel free to do that. And actually, and even if you want to kind of jump in or put the questions in the chat as well, please feel free to do that as well. And so I launched Capital M Ventures in 2022. At the same time, I was like running an accelerator, and the market went a little, I would say there was a market pullback, if you want to say. There was a chill in the market, both in public markets and in the private markets, right, where I was investing. And so I really took my time to invest. And to date, I have 7 companies that are in our portfolio, 2 more that are incoming. We're just like finalizing and sealing those deals. I topped up an investment in another company. So I would say that makes 9 companies total that are in the portfolio. And the goal is to have between another 7 and 9 companies incoming over the next, like I said before, over the next 5 quarters. So that is just like a nutshell of how I got here. Before I get into what venture capital is and what kind of business it might be good for, are there any questions? You can come off mute or put them in the chat. All right, I'll continue. So venture capital, it's essentially a private form of investing, right? We have public companies, and public companies are companies that are listed on a stock exchange, hence the word public, because that means they're publicly available to anyone who wants to invest, right? They can open up their brokerage account and then they can buy the stock. And what allows companies to be public and to go public through an initial public offering, an IPO, and to stay on the stock market, is that there's all these financial reporting regulations around public companies. So, for example, if you know accounting, which we'll talk about in the next session, that back in my day, it was called GAAP. Like all publicly listed and traded companies had to use the GAAP standards of accounting, generally accepted accounting principles. It's called something else with the word international in it now. But that just means that there's a standardized accounting process and reporting for public companies. And then what that means is that anybody can go on, say, Coca-Cola's website as a publicly traded company and go look up their financial statements, and then from there do their own research and determine whether it's a good investment or not. Right? That's the whole point of having a company that's publicly available for investment, is that they're transparent with their finances and their standing. Now, private investing is completely different. It's almost like the wild, wild west. You have private equity, which is bigger checks, bigger investments into large, more established private companies that are typically cash flowing, but could use some kind of turnaround or some kind of help in getting to the next level. And then you have private equity, which focuses on investing in junior companies, right, that are still private. And junior companies ranging from like a very early stage startup that's just an idea, all the way up to a company that's pre-IPO and everything in between. That's called like a growth, like that growth stage. And so what companies are best for venture capital? Quite frankly, I would say about and what statistics show is that 5% of all businesses are investable or venture backable, right? So that's not a huge percentage. A lot of companies are better off bootstrapping, which means that the founders, the founders of the company, the CEOs are using their own capital, whether from savings, from investments, from their job, from a windfall. They're using their own money to start and grow the company, or businesses that are cash flowing and generating their own income, and that's being used to reinvest back into the company to grow. Oftentimes, that's the more optimum route to go. And the reason why, there's a couple of reasons. The main reasons why is because companies that are venture backable, the expectation is that individuals or entities will invest in that company, and then that company, that capital, that investment will fuel super fast growth of that company. So instead of saying it takes like 20 years to grow, it takes like 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, right? And therefore investors are expecting a return on their money within a certain time frame. That's typically at the early stages. If you're investing at the early stage of a company, they're expecting a return in 10 years. And if you're investing a little bit later on, and when the company has revenue and they're cash flowing, then a VC comes in and invests, then they're probably expecting a return in 5 years or less. And what's needed to generate that return is large, fast growing revenue. And so I would say any business, and this is like and some of you have interacted with me personally. I said, oh, I'm interested in venture capital. And I say, for my business. And I say, oh, how come? And sometimes they don't know or don't understand like why or the use of venture capital. It's not an emergency stopgap, right? If you run out of funds and you're going to close your business, it's supposed to be used as fuel for growth. And so what I often, as like a quick test to see if they are ready for venture capital, if they are venture capital backable, is if I ask this one question, and that is, do you see your business generating $100 million in revenue at some point between now and 10 years from now? And if the answer is yes, maybe I'll ask a follow-up question, which is, can you walk me through, and just broadly, just top level, that path to $100 million in revenue a year? And sometimes, like I mentioned before, I think I mentioned this in the Q&A yesterday, is oftentimes that requires really thinking through your business beforehand and reverse engineering how you're going to get there over the decade.
Oh, so that's what they need to be doing.
Pardon? Say that again. No, that's a great comment, Angela.
That's okay.
Yeah, exactly. That's what any company that's considering venture capital, they need to be thinking, okay, how do I get to at least 100 million in revenue? And listen, quite frankly, sometimes some businesses don't get to that $100 million revenue, and they get acquired, and early investors have a nice outcome. right? A nice outcome, meaning a nice return, especially if they've early invested. But investors who come on later and write bigger checks, they really are expecting you to like go past 100 million, get into 250 million, $1 billion in revenue in order to hit that $1 billion, $5 billion, $10 billion valuation, where they know that the company's either on the path to IPOing, like going public, or getting acquired by a larger company. Like, because those are the two ways that an investor makes their money back. And so I'll stop there again and see if there are any questions, because the next part then is what I look for, or what we look for as a collective, VCs in general, in a portfolio company, a potential portfolio company. Ooh, I love the questions coming in. And then I'll get into more Q&A before Nori joins us. All right, Mary, go for it.
Okay, I was wondering if you invest in more service or product-based companies.
So that's actually, thank you. I meant to address this, but I did not. I somehow missed that in the past 5 minutes. Typically, service businesses are not venture backable, right? Unless you can tell. Yeah, right. Because it's and the reason why is because they're not as scalable as they're not as scalable as a business that has a product. And a product could be a piece of software, or it could be an actual product, right? Like a food, or a consumer packaged good. And because services are essentially human capital that's exchanging their time for money, and so your growth is capped at the capacity of that human capital, right? Like, for example, you hire a consultant, their cap is say 8 hours a day, then you have to hire a new one, as opposed to using technology where a piece of technology can be used at the same time by 1,000 different clients, right? And I'll give a classic example to that. So I'm actually, the most recent investment I'm going to make, and hopefully it'll be announced in the next couple of weeks, is a company that started out as, I would say, almost like a consulting company. What they did was they put together corporate training modules, like they designed and developed corporate training modules, right? And they were quite lucrative. They sold into Fortune 500 companies, right? But it was like a team hand putting together, like doing the research, interviewing the client, putting together and then putting together the proposal, then actually going out and producing this course content, right? And so, and they did well, right? It was like they did over $1 million in revenue in very short time, right? But that's not super scalable because it took like 9 months to create one course. Now, granted, that course, was a couple $100,000 in each in revenue, because that's what companies were willing to pay, right? Because they're super high quality, etc. But it wasn't scalable, like 9 months for one course. But now, thanks to AI, artificial technology, large language models, they're able to now produce one course in 9 days, and not just produce one course in 9 days, but different iterations or variations or permutations of that course that are catered to the employee. So, for example, an employee in Mumbai, they will get their own version of that training, like in their own language, that's culturally appropriate to them, versus somebody in Silicon Valley, right? So that's an example of going from a service-based business to something that's way more scalable. Like 9 days and 1,000 different iterations of that means that instead of growing at a steady rate, you're actually hockey sticking, exponentially growing your revenue. So that company, I could see getting to $1 million in revenue in short time, compared to when they were a consulting service company. Is that helpful?
Yeah, that was really, really helpful. Thank you. I also was just wondering, because I'm, transitioning into a different kind of business.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really nice to know. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. All right, Dolapo, go for it.
My question kind of piggybacks off from Mary's point earlier. How often in like your expertise do you see that a company would transition from like a consultative approach to more like tech-enabled or using AI to fast track their growth? How often do you see that nowadays?
You know what's so funny is that's interesting. Okay, so I'm gonna paraphrase the question to make sure I have it right. Okay, so you're
Okay.
saying how often do I, especially through the lens of venture capital investing and tech startups, how often do I see companies leverage the new technologies that are coming out, large language models and AI, to
Yeah,
transform the companies from service to basically like a product, right?
correct.
I haven't seen it nearly as much as I would like.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's huge possibility there to take, yeah, what were formerly like really kind of like uh service businesses that were slower, um and slower, lower margin, that take up more, that were like, yeah, slower growth, and turn them into these like really fast growing scalable companies. I would like to see more, just because I think honestly, especially the past year or two, when everybody's been talking about AI, I think we're able to better separate the wheat from the chaff, and know what's what, when it what, in terms of what's like a real AI company instead of like a chat GPT wrapper, for example, or or a company that's just like where chat GPT is the platform. But I think, yeah, I haven't seen it enough. Like this one company that I'm going to invest in,
Mm.
which is, by the way, Black female led. Um, she's one of the best examples I've seen of that, and quite frankly, actually, surprisingly, one of the only ones. So that's a really great question.
Okay. No, I'm excited to see that announcement then, because I think it would be an interesting model just to like observe and see how they were able to do that from service to tech enabled. Well, not just tech enabled, but tech product.
Yeah, and I can already see and think about how the wheels are turning in your head, because
Yeah.
maybe you can introduce everybody who you are in your business. Quite interesting.
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Dulapo, based in Montreal here, and my business is focused on training people to get into tech sales, specifically in B2B SaaS, or just the B2B world in general. On the other end as well, we work with startups and organizations that support startups to implement B2B SaaS systems. So the goal ultimately is to have a marketplace that makes it easier for people to both train for tech sales, but for startups that maybe are kind of strapped for cash to also seamlessly hire for sales talent. So that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. And I think I'm already picturing different ways that your business could be like productized, or automated a bit through AI, but we can talk about that offline.
For sure. I'll definitely connect to chat more on that. Thank you.
No problem. And I see a question in the chat here from Latoya, and she said, so for people who are really starting out, do they start with a VC or private equity? Do people expect their ROI in the next 10 years or 5 years less? So it's like, sorry, I couldn't remember the sentence. No, that's a problem. I'm happy to clarify. So if you are an early stage business, so if you started in the past just couple of years, few years, and your business is still growing, still in that early stage where you're still refining and polishing things and still exploring, probably will do a couple of pivots in the meantime, then you're more, and you plan on scaling rapidly, like to at least 100 million in revenue in the next decade or less, then definitely venture capital. A lot of, and actually a lot, and there's actually, and then I would say by the time a business is getting to that 100 million, $200 million mark, etc., there starts to be a hybrid of investors. So that's actually when private equity firms and larger VC firms will start to invest in that later stage, where there's actual revenue now and the business model is totally proven, and they're almost they're established, right? They're pre-IPO. And then there's like this other category of business where private equity firms, where the businesses can be bootstrapped. They didn't take any venture capital at all. They bootstrapped over a generation or two, then all of a sudden a private equity firm comes in and buys them up, right? And for better or for worse, right? So for example, it was in the news recently that Red Lobster, it's been around forever, right? We all know Red Lobster. They were bought by a private equity firm, right? So private equity firms, much larger checks, and they're investing in companies that are generating hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars in revenue, right? So Red Lobster was a target for a private equity company who ended up buying them out and then ended up not managing that company well. And now the new CEO, who's actually a Black man, is in the process of miraculously turning it around. Not miraculously, he's super skilled, but turning that company around. But that's another story for another time. So private equity firms, they're not investing in like the much later stage of a startup that's now turned into a scale up and an actual company. Then they're investing in already large established businesses that are already generating a return. And the private equity firm invested because they think that they can help the company produce even more revenue, more profits. Okay, Ali, what about you? And hopefully that helps, Latoya.
Hi, Melissa. I'm so happy
Hello.
to be on. So I just had a quick question in regards to how can we find these venture capitalists? Like, do you recommend going through LinkedIn or like can we find a way to pitch to, potential investors?
Absolutely. Well, great question. Like online and offline networking, like big time. I know investors at like Panache Ventures and Golden Ventures, which are two really well-known pre-seed funds here in Canada. I know they actually they have like alerts set up on their LinkedIn accounts, their paid LinkedIn accounts that will track when people are announcing their new companies or announce that they've quit their tech job to go stealth, right? Which means that they're building a company secretly. And so, and like I know a couple of VCs who've made investments in companies that were direct LinkedIn reach outs as well. So, and even one of my portfolio companies, they got a large investment through a direct reach out on LinkedIn. So absolutely LinkedIn, that's where you start, right? And then also, in person is so important. There are so many networking events around the city. If you follow me on Instagram, I'm always like at least once a week, I'm somewhere where there's startups because part of my job is actually going out and sourcing startups as well, right? And in order to source startups, in order to know what companies are out there, you have to be where they are.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
No problem. And also I can give you some names of places to start if you like.
Yes, please. I'm sure everyone else would be interested as well. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. So like I know place to start. I'm like, okay, what are some cool networking events that happen regularly? So actually the first ever Toronto Tech Week is coming up in June. So look that up. It's coming and it's like the first one. And I think it's kind of supposed to like replace Collision, which was like the super big conference, right? That's happening. Hi, Nori. I see Nori from RBC. And again, he has my name. And so I will fix that for him. Because I gave him my custom link. Oh, I know that's my fault. I give you my custom link instead of your own.
No problem.
So I'm just gonna change you right there to Nori at RBC. Anyways, so
All right.
Toronto Tech Week is coming up, and I'm sure there's going to be like free activations and events coming up. And if you're in the Toronto area, if you're in Montreal, there's Startup Fest Canada, and I'm sure there's a way to finagle a ticket. BBPA can probably help get you a ticket if you're a Black founder, quite frankly, because the tickets are like $1,000. Same with out in British Columbia too at Web Summit Vancouver, which is the new Collision. We could probably hook you up because I have connections, so I could probably hook you up with free tickets in a Web Summit Vancouver. Sorry, Nori, I'm just letting people know where they can go to network with venture capitalists. And then also in Toronto, there's something, just Google startup drinks. It's like a monthly mixer that's free and you just show up. That's another one. And then another fantastic one is TechTO. Google TechTO. It's an not-for-profit organization that runs monthly tech events, and everybody shows up to them. They're fantastic for networking. And the founder of TechTO is my friend Alex, who has his own firm, VC firm called N49P, 49th Parallel. And then there was another one. And then also there is a tech hub in Toronto called 111. It's a co-working space, but they also curate events. So like go to their website and see what events are happening there as well. And then if you're in Kitchener-Waterloo, that area, there's Communitech, which is an accelerator, and they always have networking events as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I don't want to take too much of Nori's time. Just want to say I really appreciate it, especially my, I guess, branding is in AI and innovation and mental health. So that's right up my alley. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Perfect. And I remember you talking about your business before, so we can talk about that offline if you like.
I'll follow you on Instagram. Thank you so much.
No problem. Mel Talks Money. I'll put in the chat.
Thank you.
No problem. And now I will I'll pass it on to Nori. Sorry about that, Nori. We're 4 minutes behind. Nori is a relationship manager at RBC, and I cannot wait for him to talk about the other side of financing, right, which is loan financing, because some businesses, like we talked about, are not the right fit for venture capital, but they're perfect for financing. And so, Nori, I'll leave it to you to get right into it.
Sure. Thanks so much for this, Melissa. Can everyone hear me? Can you hear me, Melissa? Can everyone hear me?
You.
Perfect. Yep. Perfect. Thanks so much for this. Happy to join and just share some information that I feel can be very beneficial to business owners. As Melissa mentioned, my name is Nori Banaby. I've been with RBC, a collective, about 8 years. Have some personal banking experience and now garnering some good information and experience in business banking, particularly around small and medium-sized businesses, and helping prospective business owners access loan funding, as well as existing business owners to access additional financing to grow their business. I just want to take a quick poll, thumbs up, very quickly. If are there any existing business owners in the room, or is it just well? First question: do we have existing business owners in the room? Just a quick thumbs up emoji if you can. Perfect. Okay. I see some hands. And do we have new business owners or prospective business owners looking to start up their business? Just a thumbs up or show of hands. Just want to get a feel for the room. Okay, well, good. So this presentation is actually for both collectively, where we would be able to discuss some information for startup business owners as well as existing business owners looking to scale their business and access financing. Melissa, I actually do have a few slides that I wanted to share. Is that okay?
Absolutely. You should have sharing permissions.
Okay. All right. So today's agenda, like I mentioned, we'll discuss how businesses can access financing. I'm going to talk about our very popular, two very popular financing options that are available to business owners currently, and that's the Canadian Small Business Financing Loan, as well as the Black Entrepreneur Business Loan as well. And then I'll also touch on some, beyond banking solutions. At RBC, we do go beyond banking to be able to provide additional support to our business owners. I just want to kind of preface this. I don't know what happened between last night and this morning. When I went to bed, I felt perfectly fine. But when I woke up this morning, all of a sudden, I'm not feeling too well. I don't know where to pinpoint where this is coming from, but I know this is flu season. And I'm in the middle of battling with my 15-month-year-old and dropping him off to daycare. So I don't know if I picked this up on my own or if I picked it up from him, but please excuse me if I sound short of breath certain times, and or if I have to mute just for a second to kind of catch myself. So please bear with me.
Thanks for joining us. Even if you're feeling under the weather, we really appreciate that, honestly.
Sure thing, sure. So just as a very introductory, um, types of financing that are available to our business owners. So we have a wide range of access to, additional support. If you have like a working capital gap within your day-to-day banking. Let me back this up because this is kind of busy. So it really starts with any assistance just for day-to-day expenses. We have an array of business credit cards that we would be able to qualify a startup business owner as well as qualify an existing business owner to assist with day-to-day financing, managing their business expenses. We do have available a Royal Operating Business Line of Credit. This helps to, satisfy any shortfalls. From time to time, meeting payroll expenses can become a challenge. From time to time, there are, gaps where inventories need to be topped up. This is an opportunity to, we do have, business owners that have qualified and continue to qualify for startup financing business owners that are qualified that have these types of needs to be able to qualify for our Royal Business Operating Line of Credit. The interest rate is manageable, but as you are aware, there is a cost of doing business with just about everything that we do. If you're looking to make a larger purchase, there is term loan financing that is available in a commercial mortgage. If you're looking to, for example, you want to start a retail store, and there are some leaseholds, you visited a unit and it doesn't, quite meet your expectation for the design and outlay of the store, we would be able to offer financing by way of a term loan for the renovations involved with that. Involved with starting the business or opening the business, as well as equipment that need to be purchased. If it's a restaurant, freezers, refrigerators, large commercial grade refrigerators, we would be able to meet that need. Clients would just need to present an invoice for what the cost of the equipment is, and then we structure the financing based on that. And the vehicle by which we use the term loan is the Canadian Small Business Financing Loan. This is a government guaranteed loan that is available, that has been made available by the Government of Canada to all commercial banks and financial institutions, well, just about all. And there's been wide sweeping success from persons qualifying for this guarantee, where the government guarantees about 85% of the borrowed funds, and the financial institutions guarantee about 15%. I don't want to get too much into the weeds of what that means at this time, because there are, even though that is required by the government, financial institutions set their own personal guarantee. That's what we call it. So that 15% can be 25% by, for example, RBC requires at least 25% of the borrowing amount. The borrower or business owner is responsible in a worst case scenario if the loan goes into default. And of course, we have the Black Entrepreneur Business Loan. This is specific to our Black entrepreneurs. The Canadian government, there again, in support with RBC. RBC has earmarked about $100 million, and I think the program ends in 2026, so next year, to be able to support specific to Black entrepreneurs. So we have been seeing much success from this program. I believe my last count, we were at about maybe 18 or 19 million of loan funds advanced to date. Now that may be a little dated. I think that was at the end of October 2024. But I'm sure we would have since added to that amount. So this, and I'll get into a little bit more into the Canadian Small Business Financing Loan, as well as the Black Entrepreneur Business Loan in the successive slides. So term loan financing in business markets, we have a cap of about, sorry, one second. So in business markets, we have a cap of about 1.25 million as the upper limit that we are able to offer as a max financing or borrowing amount. Loan to values are typically 75%. What that means, the borrowing amount would be about 75% of your total cost, and you would be responsible as a business owner to inject the additional 25% to give you the 100% financing that you're looking for. This injection is required. We want to see, bank statements. This is what we call the injection that is required from business owners to have some quote unquote skin in the game. So this is something that we verify. We need to see bank statements. We want to know where the source of funds, where it's coming from. And of course, there is another type of term loan called the IPREHI. This is basically income producing properties where there's two types. You can have an owner occupied property or an investment property. The borrowing amounts are all specific to just that. If it is going to be owner occupied, meaning there's a commercial building and you have the business that's occupying the first floor. If it's more than 50% of the building and you have some maybe rental units atop of that building, that would be classified as an owner occupied IPREHI term loan. There are certain population dynamics that we look at in terms of the borrowing amount, and then we also base it on the cash flow of that business. If it is an investment property, then there again, the borrowing amounts are specific to that investment property. Restaurant financing and franchises. So these are very, very popular where, whether it's a startup with no experience in the restaurant business and you're looking to, dive into that market.
Nori, sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
Are your slides, are you supposed to be moving your slides as well, or are you still just on the first slide?
Thanks for that. I don't like. I'm actually not on the first slide. I've moved it a couple times.
Okay.
A few slides.
All right. Yeah, we only see like the cover slide. No.
All right. So let's just put a stop to that. So I'll just put a stop to that and just.
Oh, maybe.
Can you see me?
Yeah, we can see you.
All right. So
maybe you can send me the slides, or I might have them and I can share them.
Okay. 1 second.
Or you can try again. It could be just your computer slowing down.
Yeah, no problem. Can you see it now?
Yep, now we're on term loans.
Okay. All right. Did you see me change the slide, or is it still on term loans?
Still on term loans.
Okay. All right. Yeah, let's not do this. All right. Sorry about that, folks. I'll just kind of talk, if you could give me your attention, I promise it's not a long presentation, but I'll try to be as clear as possible. And feel free, I guess we can make this a little bit more interactive. If there is a question, feel free to interrupt me. Just kind of stop me and I would be able to address that. I know we have an opportunity for Q&A at the end, but if there's a burning question, because we're not able to see the slides, I'll be happy to just provide further clarity. Otherwise, we can leave the questions for the end. So as I mentioned, in terms of, if you are, a business owner looking to purchase a restaurant or franchise, we definitely want to have a good conversation with that prospective startup business owner, because we want to get an idea if there's any experience that you may or may not have in the field. We want to know if you have, some acumen in, just business in operations, management operations of the restaurant. That's definitely a huge plus. What we oftentimes see clients resort to is the franchise option, because now you're able to benefit from what we call economies of scale, where if there is a franchise that has multiple locations, they basically set you up with a turnkey opportunity. Yes, they do have their qualifying criteria as well, but the franchising option does present a good alternative for if it's just going to be a standalone restaurant. Restaurant financing, typically, leasehold financing. So like I mentioned in my earlier example of, if there is a unit space that's not to your taste and you want to renovate, we call those leaseholds renovations. There's also equipment financing that can be made available. We want to get an appraisal on the property just to get an idea of the purchase price of the restaurant, and so that we know that our security, because the value of the property based on the appraisal forms our security for the backing of the loan. So we want to have an idea of what that is, but before we get to that point, because you do have to spend monies on appraisals, they can range anywhere, averaging $1,000. We want to make sure that this is a doable deal, or at least have the highest degree of confidence that this deal is doable before we send you to spend any monies. Definitely want to keep cost conscious decisions whenever we have conversations. So as I mentioned in a previous slide, the CSBFL, which is a really good financing opportunity because it lessens the risk for you as a business owner in borrowing. The borrower can be a sole proprietor, where you are the sole business owner in the business. If you are eligible if there is a partnership, or if there is a corporation. Non-eligible borrowers would be any owners that has temporary status. This one starts with a 9. Farming, agricultural are also non-eligible because they have their own set of loan policies and financing solutions. A trust or holding corporation is also non-eligible for the CSBFL financing. The asset classes, like I mentioned, leasehold improvements, equipments, real property. These are all examples of the asset classes that we can finance. When there's more than 50% of business activity gross revenues coming from farming operations. Okay, that's specific to farming. That activity is not eligible for the CSBF loan, and it falls under the Canadian Agricultural Loans Act, which has its own separate. So I'm saying that to say that, there is no in this instance. There are other options that we can discuss in that instance. And of course, the very popular Black Entrepreneur Business Loan. This loan is designed for startups and or existing businesses. Loan amount has a maximum of $250,000. So that's a key difference between the Black Entrepreneur Loan Program and the Canadian Small Business Financing Loan. CSBFL loan, like I mentioned, goes up to $1.25 million, and the BEBL loan amount goes up to a max of $250,000. There are variable rate term loans, and there are operating lines of credit that are available. Still sharing. Stop. That are available. We recently had a pricing update for the operating lines of credits, which is actually really good for the first year in terms of cost savings. In using the facility, cost savings comes in the form of the interest rate for the first year, where you are eligible for a prime plus 2.5% interest rate. Of course, prime rate is set by the Canadian government, Bank of Canada. there are monthly fees of about about $25 monthly to operate the line of credit. And that's because there are options for, there's an automatic revolvement for the line of credit. So the line of credit is a separate account that's tied to your business banking account, operating account. And anytime you want to transfer funds, you can from the operating line of credit to your business banking account. That can be done automatically, or it can be done by the user. So the automatic has a monthly fee attached to it, which definitely helps you, if there is any unforeseen shortfalls in the business deposit account. There are term facilities where there is also 1 year interest term at prime plus 2%. There again, the pricing update that we had previously, I believe it was up to 5%. But we have a team that listens to the feedback from us as a team. Excuse me. I'm so sorry about this, y'all. There is a repayment period of up to 10 years amortization with 1 year of interest-only payments. That really helps. There again, there are lots of unforeseen costs that you will be faced with within your first year. There is an option for you to just make your interest payments only, because your payments would be based on principal, the actual borrowing amount, and the interest, which is the cost of that borrowing amount. You'll have a monthly payment of about, let's say, $500. That'll be split, just for purposes of the example, $250 for principal, $250 for interest. In that instance, you would only pay $250 for the first year, as opposed to the $500 that you would pay. So it just gives a little bit of, breathing room to be able to use your, those funds for other purposes. There is no age limitation with using the Black Entrepreneur Loan. You must be a Canadian citizen or permanent resident. You must complete an attestation form indicating that you identify as Black or Black with another ethnicity. When there are only 2 partners in the business must be majority Black owned, 50%. And when there are more than 2 partners, the business must be at least 25% Black owned. Similar to the Canadian Small Business Financing Loan, the Black Entrepreneur Business Loan, the borrower can be a sole proprietor if you own the business yourself. If there is a partnership, you are eligible, and of course a corporation. The asset classes are the same, leaseholds, equipment, real properties. There are intangible assets as well as working capital as an asset class. Non-eligible borrowers for this program are, if you are a member of a government organization or body, if you are a non-profit organization, if you're a registered charity, union, or a fraternal benefit society or order, if you have a religious organization or body entity, which organizations owns equity interests, I'm sorry, you're not eligible for that borrowing. And if you have a trust or holding corporation. So that's in a nutshell, the borrowings that are available in terms of financing, from a smaller amount, if you're looking at like a $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 startup cost or need. The solution for that would be more like a business credit card or a line of credit. And then if you have larger borrowing amounts by way of a term loan, the CSBFL, Canadian Small Business Financing Loan, and the Black Entrepreneur Business Loan are able to fit that need. Of course, the BEBL, the Black Entrepreneur Loan, goes up to $250 as a maximum. But the CSBFL has a larger limit up to $1.25 million. So it's a wide array of options that are available. We're definitely seeing a lot of success from definitely seeing some success from these financing options. I have clients that have benefited from it, and very happy because now once you open up an account with RBC business deposit account, that opens you up to a gate. It's like a gateway of many different opportunities and access to information available to you. Primarily around beyond banking solutions. Whether you're starting a business, as I mentioned, there's owner, our partners, and futurepreneur that assist in advisory services and incorporating your company, getting you the foundational building blocks for organizing your business. If you want to attract more customers, there is Moneris, which is a payment solution that allows you to accept tap, allows you to accept debit cards, credit cards. Inside Edge, so this is like an add-on to your online banking that gives just data insights into how your customers are spending, where your concentration areas. All of these are very much tools that can be used. If you need support with human resources, no matter the size of your business, it could be a small business or a large business. We have ADP as our partner to be able to assist with asking the questions that you may not have the answers to or that you may not have thought of. I have a good colleague there that really provides that human resources support. And basically managing cash flow and receiving funds. I want to give a plug to our Grants Match program. Grants Match is basically government funding and grant opportunities. What we do and what is available to you as an RBC client is we help with the matching of you as our client with appropriate grants. We also take it a step further in being able to help with the application writing, because they get a bit layered in that regard. So we have, persons designated to assist with writing the grants and connecting you with the right grants opportunities. And the grants, as you know, provides additional support to lending funds, which would be two separate types of funding. So I guess to kind of capture this, there are a lot of options that are available to help and to be able to meet a need for business owners, regardless if you're on the startup side of the pendulum, or if you're an existing business owner, 2 years, 5 years, and you're looking to grow your location, or just need additional support. There is a wide array of options. And of course, it starts with just the conversation with someone like myself to be able to help kind of steer you into the direction that is best suited for you as the individual, because it is not a cookie cutter approach. We deal every application is case by case, and we are happy to be able to provide that level of support. I'll stop there. That is actually the end of the presentation, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. I know you have your hand raised. Before that, though, I want to just some instant feedback from Rochelle, because and I agree with her. And she said, all this information is great because my business account is with RBC and not once has anyone explained what's available. And I know it's like there's such a suite of products of products and services that it's hard to walk in and ask what's available. So to have it mapped out is amazing. Another thing I wanted to mention too is I'm really interested in learning everything I can about loan financing through banks, because there's a food brand in the States called Primal Kitchen that was acquired by one of the bigger food brands. And I listened to a podcast where one of the co-founders was being interviewed, and she said that they didn't take any venture capital or angel investment. It was all bootstrapped because the founders previously successful. But then when they started to really scale, they relied on this $9 million revolving line of credit, and that just financed their whole business continually. and that just to me is so interesting that their entire business was living off of a $9 million line of credit, that they would pay down, replenish depending on inventory and order cycles. So develop a great relationship with your bank. Now, okay, Stephanie, you had a question.
Yes,
Or
I have
comment.
I have a couple questions. One is just a point of clarity. You had mentioned that to apply to the Black Entrepreneurial Business Loan, when there are two business owners, that one has to be majority, but you also mentioned 50%. I know a lot of times what we have issues with our entrepreneurs is that they're 50% and the programs require 51% ownership for majority. So I just wanted to see clarity on that one point, if it's 50 or 51.
So yeah, in that instance, 51% if it's a partnership. I think the spirit of that point is more around the business being majority Black owned. So in this instance, like you mentioned, 51% of course gives the majority ownership, and the second partner 49%. That would be used as the benchmark in that instance.
Okay.
And then there is the option of 20. And then there is the option of the 25%, just at minimum, of that individual being that business owner, a part of that group being at least 25% ownership would be also eligible as well.
Okay, thank you. And then the other question is piggybacking off of Melissa and Rochelle's comment. We're in a day and age with, I know for myself, all of my banking is done digitally. I don't think I know any bank representatives in my actual home branch. So in situations like that, who would you contact? Do you contact your home branch and they would then put you in touch with somebody like yourself, or how do we actually make that connection?
That's a great question. And to your answer, yes, you would visit your branch, just express your interests, and they would put you in touch with someone like myself. Or what usually would happen, they may put you in touch with someone equivalent to me at your branch. And then what that person can do is reach out to me directly, or someone on the team to then reach out to you. But absolutely right. The branches, the way that the branch network is set up, there are team managed clients and then there are relationship managed clients. Team managed clients, basically, you have a representative in the branch who's domiciled at that branch to be your advisor. Relationship managed clients, you don't necessarily need to be at that branch, but you do provide servicing to that branch, because as relationship managers like myself, we are remote, so we can move around from place to place. So that's why. So I just wanted to give that as a backdrop as to yes, visiting the branch gets your inquiry heard, and then from there, that advisor would either take it themselves or reach out to me directly to see what is the best solution.
Okay, and then final question, I promise. Every time you speak, I could hear you getting short of breath and I feel terrible.
That's fine. No, that's fine. We're in it. We're in it.
Do you also have programs for female entrepreneurs? This audience right now, yes, we are all Black entrepreneurs, but we're also all female entrepreneurs. So I was wondering if there was a special program for female entrepreneurs as well over at RBC.
So no, there isn't one specific to female entrepreneurs, but what I can say, persons that I come in contact with, I put on my white gloves. So you can expect, a high level of professionalism, a high level of service. So that at least gives you quicker access to the information that you need available and provide some kind of direction. So yes and no.
Okay, great. Thank you for that very PC answer.
You're welcome, as best I could.
Yeah, so we appreciate it. Melissa, I'm gonna send it back over to you. I always hijack Melissa's sessions.
No, I love it.
Yes.
I love it. I appreciate it because she enriches it. You're enriching it, Stephanie. All right. Does anybody have any questions? Like, I have one also related to a comment I made earlier, but I just want to check and make sure that other people have questions that they need answers for first. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Amaka. Amaka, sorry.
Just had a call come in when you mentioned something about grants. Just
Okay, so you would like Nori to just repeat that whole grant matching part. Okay.
Sure. So that is let me see if I could help you out there, Marco. Sometimes you gotta make lemonade. So this is the grants match. This is the grants match program that we have. So this is just fun grants that are available by the government. For if you are an RBC client, we make we have a special relationship where we are able to help with the matching of our clients with grants and being able to assist with the writing of the applications and being able to kind of negotiate with that's probably not a good word to use. I would say we align clients with the correct grants, help with the grants match process, and definitely there is a preferred rate that we would be able to kind of offer in that instance. For the fee, for the cost that's involved, like I mentioned, there is a cost in doing business, but nonetheless, it is those applications can be very lengthy and sometimes complicated. So to have someone to assist with that definitely helps you be able to have that support. Preferred rates. Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, machine.
Thank you for that. Amika, do you have any more questions or does anybody else have any questions?
I just have a comment. How do we get in contact with Nori? Because he's given us information that I've been fighting RBC for years.
So
For years. So whatever that relationship management thingy that you said, I want you.
Okay, let me put. I had it up on the screen. Let me put it back so that you can, take a snapshot of it. It has my information on it.
While you're doing that, Nori, I'm going to put a plug in for the great relationship that the BBPA does have with RBC. So if any of you do need any information as to how to reach out to Nori or anybody at RBC, feel free to send us an email. We can always bring them back to do more sessions around this. If there's questions that weren't answered, send us an email. We are here for you. We are here to provide the information that our community needs to be successful in their entrepreneurial and professional endeavors. So we take a lot of pride in these relationships, and we know that RBC is a trusted partner of the BBPA, and they're always willing. Nori, I'm putting things in your calendar before you even realize it. They're always willing to come back and speak to us again.
No, certainly, you're absolutely right. This is actually not the first presentation that we've done. We've collaborated in the past, and I think the last time we connected, it may not have been the ending of last year. It was last year sometime. But that was one of the better presentations. We were able to get some insight into what you guys do as well. And it was just amazing to see how you kind of walk clients through the process, preparing them for the next steps. So, I tip my hat off to you as well and to the organization for that. So definitely synergy in our relationship.
Thank you for that. The work can't be done without the relationships of our community partners such as yourself. So we appreciate that feedback.
Absolutely.
Okay, jumping off again. Over to you, Nori and Melissa.
All right.
Melissa.
Oh, sorry about that.
Something you had said that I just wanted to kind of highlight, because you are absolutely correct. There is a lot of fear sometimes, and I call it fear because it masks itself in many different ways in terms of operating loan facilities, operating revolving loan facilities. So that example that you gave where there was like a $9 million operating line, and that basically supported the business. When used correctly, when serviced correctly, meeting the monthly payments, that all adds to your further eligibility for more credit. That helps to maintain and give stability when you do need that support, month over month, to be able to meet the needs that the business requires. So I would just underscore, just when used correctly, and of course things happen, nothing is perfect, nothing, everything, there are things that we cannot control, but that's where, proactively reaching out to someone like myself, or proactively reaching out to your officer and just having the conversation. Hey, listen, I'm running tight this month. I don't have space in my line. Is there anything that you can do? I expect to get a payment from my customers in the next 5 business days. But then there is something that we can do. There is a temporary accommodation request that I would be able to make on your behalf, just making the case, hey, my client is running a bit short this month. Look at her payment history. She's been making the payments on time each month. There are deposits coming in. We can see that the business is running, has good running operations. So that, and once I do that, but the key in that is being able to, foresee what's coming. Because then I can put in place or make a request to put in place a temporary accommodation to give you that 10,000 additional that you need. I think 10,000 is a lot. I think it's a smaller amount. Nonetheless, there is an amount that we would be able to offer, for a short period of time to allow those deposits to come in, which does not interrupt the operation and the maintenance of that line of credit. So definitely, all of the millionaires and billionaires of this world says banks and lending loan facilities help with growth, similar to venture capital, but so I would say that.
Exactly. And you know what's funny? And Latoya, before I call you up, like I love that you said that, because believe it or not, loan money is cheaper than venture capital. It's cheaper to the owner. It's cheaper to the founder. And you know why it's cheaper? It's because you're not giving up a piece of your company, right? Once you exchange ownership of your company for capital, it's very hard to get that back. I've heard of people getting it back, but oftentimes what that entails is you having to buy it back from the investor at a multiple at a multiple of the original price. If they even let you buy it back, that, and that's a little bit on the rarer side, as opposed to just funding your whole business through financing. And I actually know of a company that got to over 100 million in revenue, and RBC, and over the span of years, they really developed the relationship with RBC, and were operating their business off of a $15 million line of credit, right? So, and they had raised just like a small amount, like say under 5 million at the very beginning, and then the rest of it was just, again, that operating financing, you called it. So just keep that in mind. But again, that's just through building the relationship, make your payments, great relationship, being able to show that your revenues are increasing, that you're managing your cash flow effectively. And as you keep communicating with your relationship manager and building that relationship as alongside growing that business, that's when that opportunity for more financing comes into play. So I just wanted to mention those.
Green school.
So let's go to
Green school.
Let's go to Latoya. You had a question.
Yes. Sorry. Yes. My question, I guess, was about the pitch. When entrepreneurs do their pitch, will it be published on YouTube, or will it remain private or confidential, and only like the virtual attendees will see our company pitch in March?
So it sounds like we will not be publishing that, right, Stephanie?
We will not publish the pitch without your consent.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Another good question. All right, do we have any more before we let Nori get some rest? We really appreciate you
And
sharing.
Nora, you sound like you're of West Indian descent, so I'm sure you have some good home remedies.
Yep.
Listen. I hope they work up here because this Canadian cold is definitely a tough one.
Is it Bahamian? I'm
You're
sensing.
correct.
Yeah.
You're correct.
Oh, how did you know?
Yeah,
My
we got
cousin-in-law is Bahamian. So there's
Yeah,
little
man.
there's little tones that you hear, the undertones
Yep.
of certain words.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's impressive.
we got some bush medicine, some Sarsi I could take, but
Yeah.
Yes, man, the Cersei tea. Everybody knows about the Cersei tea.
Yes, we do.
And when all else fails, you can
Thank
come
you
to
so
us
much.
Jamaicans for some Ray and nephew and some honey and
Yeah,
lard.
Oh,
exactly.
Oh, that'll open my chest right up. It might
Exactly.
be so necessary.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so
All
much.
right, thank you so much, Nori, for joining us. And everybody, I'll get his presentation for you, right? Are you able to send that presentation to me so I can send it to the attendees? Is that possible?
If it's not the full thing, it'll be a recap.
Yeah, that's fine.
Of
It doesn't
just
have to be
some
the
of the
full
important
thing.
information.
Even like some kind of 1-pager or 3-pager with some of the loan options, right? Like
Sending that over. I'll send that over.
amazing. All right, and we can give you your contact information. We can include that because typically we include just people's LinkedIn, but based on the nature of your job and what you do, maybe it's just better for them to be able to reach out to you directly through email, but let me know. Okay, great. Excellent. So that wraps up our financing other people's money session. Thank you so much. Like the participation is amazing. We have 35 total participants on the call. In 1 hour, or actually no, in 40 minutes, we have our last session, and that is all about business and accounting for growth. This is the session that you want to attend if you want to know once and for all what a write-off is and how to properly, effectively use write-offs when you're doing your business taxes, amongst a whole bunch of other topics. I read through the slides this morning, and it's one of the best small business accounting and bookkeeping workshops I've ever seen. So please come back here, join me at 2:00, and we will do that workshop with Noémie from her bookkeeping firm Comptabilité. Thank you, everyone. I'll meet you back here at 2:00. And thanks again, Nori from RBC, one of our most loyal supporters. Thank you.
Thank you too.